Good night, everybody. My name is Angelo, and I'm here to explain you what is the black economy. I've already made 3 videos talking about it, but they were in Portuguese and they have more than 9 hours long. This video will be a shorter version and will have under 3 hours. It also will be in English. My goal here is to clarify and destroy any misconception that you might have about the black economy. Like the black economy is communism or it's bad for the upper class. You will see that it's not. Hope you enjoy it. This is not only a shorter version of the black economy, but also an improved one. But if you want to know the subjects that I talk here in more detail, watch part 1, part 2, and part 3. So let's start. What is the black economy? In a simple way, a planned economy model with private property capable of making the super wealth keep being super wealth, the poor stop of having to work 9 hours a day and also getting much richer, and all the problems with economical sustainability stop existing. It's not a miracle, it's true. As I explained it here, it's kinda a paradise, I think, but it's true, it's possible to be done. How is that possible? Here I will give to you a quick resume of the things we'll talk in detail in this video. Money with expiration date, strong technological advancements that already exist but are not applied in the economy, without the fear from destroying jobs, universal basic income, control of the offer by the state, and the new coin theory. All this together is what make an economy turn into a black economy. The black economy is divided in 2 principles. The principle of balance and market growth, and the principle of maximum delivery of value, also known as DISA. The principle of balance is strongly dependent of the principle of maximum delivery of value. That's why we're going to start with it. In this principle, the focus of study will be technology and the improvement of traditional business model. The economy part will be shown later in this video. So the more imaginative part of economy will be later. We'll start with technology. Let's start talking about DISA. DISA is make it possible to multiply the offered value by the service providers at the industrial high. So, in other words, we turn service providers into industry. Digitalize, industrialize, simplify, and automatize. But this is not only applied to service providers, applied to everything, but in special service providers, because there is where we can use this at the highest level. And through the use of this, we'll be able to cut costs and add value to products and companies. We will cut costs with rent, jobs, feedstock, transportation, and low productive capacity. Here I will give you a quick view about all this, but if you want to know in details, watch part 1. Here is hint. If you want to know in details, please stop the video. I will be quicker in this version. Jobs, feedstock, transportation, and low productive capacity. I'll show you now the main technologies that will be used to achieve DISA. First, artificial intelligence, automation applied to service, drones, Internet of Things, and what I call BB receiver or black box receiver. It works in a similar way as a snack machine. Sell a product without you having to employ anyone, and also without you having to rent a place and establish a store. You just put a box on the street and the person can go and buy it. How can we apply all that? With franchises, like McDonald's for example. Franchising of absolutely everything, strong increase in efficiency, quality, value delivery, and cost reduction. A franchise has many owners, that's why it allows income distribution. So the franchise takes care of logistics, administrative and financial, relationship with government and planning, product development and business model, marketing. So, to the application of DISA and calculation of maximum productive capacity, I will explain that later. The franchise is everything. Only with franchise we can allow DISA to exist, in my point of view. Advantages of the franchise model. It brings efficiency, standardization, DISA, and reduction of value decreases to business that previously worked in a less standardized way. Number 2, it carries demand in its brand, McDonald's for example, thus facilitating the distribution of demand and facilitating the opening of new franchises. Number 3, it facilitates government control over business, as on the issue of data collection and decision making. Number 4, strengthens demand generation due to large income distribution. How a franchise business model would be created inside the black economy? To recreate a business model inside the black economy, we must take into consideration these 4 factors: value delivery, saturation, income distribution, and demand consumption. With these 4 factors in mind, we can preview how much a business model will improve the overall economy, how much it will increase in the final size of the economy, how much it will strengthen demand and give sustainability to the economy, how much it will create wealth, and how much it will accelerate the growth of the economy. Let me ask you, what worth more? Buy a burger or buy the ingredients in a supermarket and make the burger at home? Let's see now how the restaurant business model will impact the economy in comparison with the supermarket. It will deliver much more value because you will get the burger ready, you don't have to make it, like if you buy the ingredients in a supermarket. It will also distribute much more wealth. Why? Because how many restaurants can a supermarket replace? A big supermarket, let's say. So the restaurant allows much more owners, different owners, than a single supermarket. It won't cause any saturation. We will explain saturation when I talk about supermarket. But it will consume more demand than the supermarket. Why? Because it's much more expensive than you buy the ingredients, so it will consume more demand because of that. Let's see now the supermarket. It delivers less value than buying the burger ready from a restaurant. It also distributes less wealth than the restaurant business model. Why? Because a supermarket is much bigger and it has usually only one owner or two owners, and a restaurant, you're gonna have many restaurants and many different owners, because a restaurant tends to be a business of a small size if you compare with a supermarket. It will consume less demand because it's cheaper than a restaurant. It is a good thing, the only good thing about supermarket in comparison with a restaurant business model. But will saturate the market. Why? Because you can't replace a restaurant or even other type of business with a single supermarket. So it kind of diminish the size of the economy. Here you can see the two business model in comparison. You see that the restaurant business model is much better. So what we can take as lesson from this comparison is this. A consumer buy from supermarket is wrong. The correct path is a consumer buy from a franchise of a restaurant that buys from a supermarket. And the problem with a supermarket is that it can replace many different type of business. So that's why it saturates the market. That is very wrong. And here you can see the ideal business model. Maximum delivery value, maximum wealth distribution, less demand consumption, and less saturation as possible. So this is ideal. This is what we try to achieve when we create a business model. So, what's better for the economy? Hire a painter or buy ink and paint the wall of your house? By this graphic you can see the red is paint and the blue here is the hire a painter. Hire a painter is much better for the economy. So we can conclude that the consumer buy the ink is bad for the economy. The correct path is the consumer hire a painter from a franchise and the painter buy the ink. But what we can learn from this is that it's paper of the state to facilitate this path and to make this path harder, because if it's cheaper for people to buy ink instead of hire a painter, they will buy ink. Let's see now how can we improve the healthcare business model. This is what I call Medbox. It is a box that stays in the street, and it can do it will be able to collect blood, do basic medical tests and vaccination, and many more things as technology goes forward. So we can give people much more accessible healthcare in a much cheaper way. This is what I call public box. It is a way to make people closer to the state offices. So the creation of a business model should be made between the franchises, state, and society, taking into account the economy, companies, elite and lower class, GISA, what is already established, common sense, consumers, professionals, but above all, I think is the economy, because the economy is what help people, what make things don't fall apart. So the economy must be always the focus here. And find a place that everybody can accept, a middle place, let's say. Now let's analyze what business type should keep existing or should stop existing. What would happen if a determined business type or service stopped existing because it was replaced by technology? Then we have to ask ourselves, does the new technology replacement make the business model look like this? let's say, an ideal business model, like with a lot of delivery of value and wealth distribution, or does it look like this? A bad business model ideal with a lot of saturation and demand consumption. So let's not forget about the universal basic income. So people might think that a job that stops existing might hurt the economy. Not in a black economy. I will explain that later. Some business model and by consequence some professions should stop existing, and everybody, including the professionals that lost their jobs and the companies who provides them, end up winning with the change because of the universal basic income. There are two things that might happen with jobs after this application. One thing is what I call job multiplier, which I'll show to you now. The other is job destroyer. In the case of the job multiplier, we have one job that will turn into 4 jobs. Instead of having 1 month of workload, it will have a week of workload. So that is the change, and we call it job multiplier. Then we have the job destroyer, which is a job that simply stops existing, and the person that work with it will work with something else designated by the state. How do we know when it's multiplier and when it's destroyer? There are two things that might happen with jobs after this application. One thing is what I call job multiplier, which I'll show to you now. The other is job destroyer. In the case of the job multiplier, we have one job that will turn into 4 jobs. Instead of having 1 month of workload, it will have a week of workload. So that is the change, and we call it job multiplier. Then we have the job destroyer, which is a job that simply stops existing, and the person that work with it will work with something else designated by the state. How do we know when it's multiplier and when it's destroyer? Here we have the same job, and we will apply a job multiplier or a job destroyer to it. Remembering that not all jobs can be applied a job destroyer. So it depends on technology, on many other factors. But let's suppose this one, we could completely replace it by a machine. Here we can analyze the graphic, and by the graphic we can see that destroying that particular job would cause a lot of saturation in the market and would reduce wealth distribution. When we apply the job multiplier method, we have a better graphic, or in other words, it's better for the economy. So, in this particular case, a job multiplier would be the ideal. This method of job destroyer, it would be viable if it has less saturation and was remodulated into a franchise model that added wealth distribution, because wealth distribution is low. Now we are seeing another job that we apply the same method, job multiplier and job destroyer. Now we can see that in this particular job, the job destroyer performs better. So this means that this job should stop existing. It would be better for the economy and for the professionals working with it if it stopped existing. So remember, that's not all professions that can be completely replaced. In fact, the minority can. So to you apply the job destroyer method, the job type in question must have this possibility that it can be completely replaced by technology. Let's not forget about universal basic income. So, first, it needs to be better in the graphics shown. Secondly, it needs to have available technology that allows the job replacement by DISA. Let's analyze all that in details. Here we can see the distribution of jobs between sectors of the Brazilian economy according to IBGE in 2016. We see that by far the greatest sector is the third sector, which has 65% of all jobs in the economy. In the third sector is exactly where the service providers are, and the service providers are the ones who can take the most benefit from the application of DISA. So, let's see how DISA would change things. You see that DISA could change in 20%, estimative that I did. There's no way that I can precise this, but it can be considered more or less the correct number. Less 12% in the first sector, less 12% in the second sector, but less 60% in the third sector. Why DISA can destroy much more jobs in the third sector than the other two? Because in the third sector is where the service providers are, and there is where DISA can perform better. If this estimative is correct, the reduction in the amount of jobs would be of 46%, also a reducing workload. So, here we have the total number of people in the economy, and here the number of jobs. So first, the unemployment that reduced the number of jobs. Second, economic crisis reduces a lot the number of jobs. Third, DISA application. There is no more how the economy sustains itself through jobs. An estimate of last 80% was worked with virtually the same population. What will be the practical result of this? Sharp decrease in workloads. And then we can make one old job into 4 new jobs and one old job in no job at all. We have a job multiplier and job destroy. If you want to know more about jobs and business model, please watch in detail part 1 and part 3. So, let's understand what happened to people whose jobs stop existing and how they will get paid. But first, let's analyze the production capacity of business to see where the money to pay them will come from. Here we have a barber shop with 4 barbers working in it. This barber shop is working at 50% of its maximum capacity, with 50% more to expand its capacity. Let's understand how this calculation can be done. If a barber can attend 6 customers per day, 4 barbers can do 24 customers per day. If the barber shop attends 12 customers per day, which would be considered a great result by the barbers, they still would have 12 customers vacancy. In other words, they still could produce more value. So, we have the operational capacity, which is this 50% that the barber shop is already being able to produce, and we have the other 50% that the barber shop could produce if demand was better. Question to be answered: are we, inside our capitalist system, taking full advantage of our business maximum capacity? Obviously, no. In order to fix that, and many more problems already explained, also problems that will be explained forwards in this video, we need to create a universal basic income. An universal basic income is needed for the following purposes: take full advantage of our maximum business capacity, making demand to be detached of supply, allowing jobs to be automated and replaced by DISA, increasing productivity and reducing costs. We'll talk more about that later. By detaching demand from supply, demand will become much stronger and easy to control. Imbalances between demand and supply will nearly stop existing, and wealth distribution becomes much easier to be done. Also, reduces wages discrepancy, helping with wealth distribution. Let's see this in another way. Here we have this graphic showing how the state put money in the economy. So in form of credit, it gives money to the owner of the companies through the banking system, and the owner of the company can hire more employees and strengthen demand and make the economy work. But the owner of the company can also put the money in other things that don't strengthen demand and don't give the economy sustainability. Much contrary, it takes sustainability from the economy. So when you use a universal income, we give the state money directly to demand. So the demand is gonna be much stronger. And the money given to people will end up in the owner of the economy, because people will spend this money into companies. So you give money to people, people buy from a supermarket, from a store, and it will end up at the owner of the company. How much money should be paid by the state to the people? I'm going to show you this equation. Of course, it's only estimative, but we can have a notion of how much the state should pay to people. So, the VP is the value paid by the state to be spent by individuals that doesn't receive shares. I will explain forward what shares means. So here is the total value. The UPC, that is the utilized productive capacity of inside of reality business. This is the value that the economy already is producing. What I mean with inside of reality business, I mean Ferrari's factory, for example, wouldn't be inside of reality business. That's what I mean, because this would mess the calculation. NPC, non-utilized productive capacity of inside of reality business. This is the production that could be produced but is not because demand is weak. This 0.5 here is like a lock to not cause inflation. The POP is the population that doesn't receive shares, so all these divided by the amount of population. And we have the C, that is what I call class. It is a way to pay more to people that have jobs that receive more before the economy became black. So here we can have a notion of how much this multiplier would affect the value paid. So let's say a doctor and a lawyer would receive a C6 or CS class, so he would receive more than somebody that receives a C1 class. Now let's see how the UBI would affect the economy. I bring to you the barbershop case again to show you how the UBI would impact the barbershop. By knowing that, we can have a notion of how it would impact the entire economy. So, here is the equation of the UBI. We know that the UPC is the already operational capacity that the barbershop is operating. How can we translate that to money? Well, we can have a notion of how much the barbershop in question charges per haircut. So let's say they cut 10 hairs by day, and each hair is $20. So we can have a notion of how much this UPC is. And in the equation of the value paid, we have the NPC, that is the value that the operational capacity that the barbershop could achieve but is not because demand is weak. So, how this UBI would impact the barbershop? It would raise the barbershop operational capacity to 75%. Well, why not 100%? Because 100% would cause inflation. Also, this barbershop in question needs to share the market with other barbershops, so make it operate in a too high capacity would be bad for the market. So we can consider 75% in this case the ideal, the most healthy way for the economy and for the own barbershop to operate. So this equation needs to be subtracted from profit. The taxes doesn't need to be that high because much of the value paid is based on the non-utilized productive capacity. Now let's understand how a shop owner and employee receives their payment. Inside a black economy enterprise, the profit enters in a company and it is distributed between the employees and the owner, with one difference. The owner will receive only a percentage of the profit, a very high percentage of the profit, but only a percentage of the profit. The employees would receive an UBI, which is symbolized by the CX that you see. The X in case is the class, and a lower percentage of profit. So what's the difference between capitalism? Difference number one is that the employees will receive also a UBI. Difference number two is that they would receive a percentage of the profit of the company, not a salary. That is much more sustainable to the company. Let's understand why. First, if the company is not making any money, then it would not have to pay anything for its employee, and the employee would receive only the UBI. Many people would not have a job, and these people that do not have a job, they would work for the state and receive only a UBI. So anyone working for a company is getting more than working for a state, of course in a lower state job. Also, in the case of the capitalism, if a company is not making any profit, it still has to pay the salary, so it's much less sustainable. In a black economy, the employees would receive more than a capitalist economy, and also the own company would perform much better in terms of costs. But a citizen can lose his job also in a black economy. Let's see if the 3 barbers lose their job in the barber shop. They would lose only the percentage of profit, but would keep being receiving the UBI and would be relocated to or another job in another company or work for the state. So if a person got fired, she still got the universal basic income and she will work in a state job. This means that the demand almost never gets weak, even if a lot of demissions occur. And in a black economy, it's really hard to a company to go bankrupt. Now we are going to change the subject, but before changing the subject, let me clarify something to you. If we raise the UBI, we also raise the operational capacity of the barbershop. But if we have a business that was already operating at 90% of its operational capacity before we raise the UBI value, would that cause inflation? Yes, it would, but we're going to explain that later when I explain to you the new coin theory. So hold on a little, that will be explained. What is the most efficient way to make and sell churros? Through food trucks or through black boxes and machines? Let's suppose that this machine is a churros machine. Now let's suppose we could put this machine inside a wagon and put this wagon into a truck and move it to a bigger structure where it could connect to drones, and the drones receive the shoes from the wagon and deliver it into a black box that is in some place in the city. Now let's see, we have here 5 food trucks of shoes. These 5 food trucks will produce the same amount than only one wagon factory, and with the food trucks we have only 5 places where we can sell the shoes. With black boxes we have all the city where we can sell the shoes. Now let's simulate a scenario where a person tries to buy shoes from a black machine in a street. So this guy, he wants to buy shoes. Here is the factory. Here is the black box where he asks for the factory a shoes. So if the black box doesn't have the shoes in storage, she can send a message to the factory, and through the drone the factory delivers the shoes into a black box. So the drone will deliver the product and also will be able to change batteries, and our guy receives his shoes. So what are the advantages of operating this way? Only one place of production, and also is much more productive. Many places to sell. And now let's see how we apply this method inside a city. Here we have the city, the shoes franchise, the shoes mini factory or the franchisee, and here we have the demand. UBI is paying a median of $3,000 a month. In this city we have only one shoes mini factory, but it's operating in 60% of its maximum capacity, while the ideal is 30%. So when does the mini factory will get a concurrent? When the utilized productive capacity is above 1.5 times the IPC, the ideal productive capacity. So we know that this factory was at 60%, so it was far above 1.5, the ideal capacity, which was 45%. Then it will get a concurrent. You might say, how are you going to split demand like that? Well, we'll explain that forward to you, but it's possible. And now the shoes franchise will get 2 franchises of shoes mini factory. And the UBI, the value paid to the population, also will rise as the economy keeps expanding. So here we have the city A, the shoes franchise, one shoes mini factory operating at 51%. Suddenly it gets 75%. Then 2 shoes mini factory start existing. And how other types of business operate in this model? Let's say a beauty salon, for example. Instead of concentrated demand in a single salon, how about dividing it between other salons with less demand? Encouraging women to go to beauty salons next to their residence will strengthen the economy. Here we have the ideal capacity, the ideal operating capacity of salons in a city. and we have a saloon in the same city operating 75%. What will happen? The same explained before. It will get a concurrent. The advocacy franchise has only one office, one franchisee in City A. That office is operating at 76% of its maximum capacity. One very important thing, if the consumer receives his attainment through AI, even if Office A doesn't have to do anything, it still will receive the value that the consumer paid to use the AI, as long as this consumer is in the same city as Office A. So artificial intelligence will be something that will help local business. And a new office opens in the same city as Office A. What about the internet? Same method applied to franchises. We designed it to favor local trade and small business. Should never compete with offline segments, just assist them. Here we have the consumer buying from a large state-owned internet sales company like an Amazon or eBay. It is the role of the state to distribute the space on the internet in a fair way. So let's understand better how the internet sale would happen inside the black economy. So here we have the website of the state-owned company like an Amazon or eBay. And here we have a consumer in its city. So the consumer find its product inside the website and buys it from a franchise. The sale goes to a local franchise, and the franchise delivers the product to the consumer. And if there is a local franchise, in case, if there is not, the closed franchise will receive the sale. How the state would manage to make and control all that has been shown until here? It will have to create a government agency called GISA. I won't explain here everything to you, but if you want to know better, stop the video and read what I wrote here, or watch part 1. So you have seen the principle of maximum delivery of value. Now let's see the principle of balance and market growth. Here is where we talk more about the economy. If you want to know better the principle of balance and market growth, I encourage you to watch part 2. So here we have two shoes manufacturing. One is operating at 50% with ideal of 30% and the other 45% with the same ideal of 30%. So both are beyond the ideal operational capacity. And the UBI is paying $4,000 a month to the population of the city where these two manufacturers are installed. Then the city will get one more shoes manufacturer because the others were operating at a too high capacity. And what happens also? The population that gets $4,000 a month now will get a $5,000 a month because the economy has expanded. You might say, okay, but only one manufacturer open. How you can say that the entire economy expanded? Well, I'm gonna have to explain to you later the new coin theory, but what you need to know is that the population of that city will get a coin specifically to buy food from restaurants. So later I will explain that better. And also how to divide demand between newly created food trucks. We will also explain it later. Keep watching and you will know. Here we have both systems, the black economy and capitalism side by side, so we can compare how both work in a scale of time. Here we have 3 food trucks inside the black economy, and here we have 3 food trucks inside capitalism. As we know, capitalism distributes demand in an unfair way. So one food truck has 80%, is operating at 80% of its full capacity, and the other 2 in 50%. The black economy is more equal, so the 3 start in a more similar way, in 30% of its maximum productive capacity. And demand start in the same way too. Let's say in a median of $2,000 a month. So let's see how time would affect both systems. Since the 3 food trucks are operating below ideal, we can raise the UBI. And now we have $3,000 a month as a median that is paid as UBI to the population. And because we raise this value, we also raise the operational capacity of the business inside the black economy. Since the operational rates in business grows because of the raise in demand, we should create more business. Supplies expand in a very controlled way. Just so you know, I didn't explain the new coin theory, but the value paid here we can consider is a coin to be spent specific in restaurants. I will talk more about that later. Since we expanded the supply, now we can also expand the demand. Why? Because the supply starts to operate in a lower capacity. Since we expand now the demand, the supply will start to operate in a higher capacity, and we should expand the supply, then we expand demand, then we expand supply, then we expand demand in a cycle. You see that in details, but let's keep. In capitalism, one food truck has failed. It simply doesn't get demand, and it can't pay its costs because the costs are very high. The productive is low because they don't use that much technology. They need to create jobs and all that stuff, and demand is concentrated in only one food truck. So the newly created food truck has failed. So let's say we create a UBI in capitalism. That would be a problem because all the business that already concentrate demand will concentrate even more. Due to structural problems, this company has gone bankrupt. Since demand rise, operational rates has increased too in the local food trucks inside the same city. And we expand supply again. Since we expand supply, the operational rates start too low, and we will increase the UBI, increase demand again. The value now that we consider the medium that the population receive will get low. Why? Because business starts to shut down, start to fail, and since the demand needs the supply to get money to expand, if a store closes, the demand will get weaker. Demand attached to supply problem. This is fixed in a black economy. More supply expansion. See the cycle happening here. Raising demand, expansion supply, then demand raise again, then supply expansion again, until we hit the maximum expansion of the determined market. I will explain that later. Let's understand how all this that I show you works in a capitalism economy. Here we have supply, here we have demand. We put credit in supply, and supply raises. Because supply has raised and now we have more companies, we start to have more jobs, and demand will raise too. Because the debt generated by the credit, we have bankruptcy in supply, and also lower payment in wages, which cause familiar debt, for example. And then we have fewer jobs and more debt inside the families, and demand gets low. Now, how that would happen in a black economy? Let's see. Here we have supply and demand. We have an increase in universal income. Here we have supply always much above demand because it operates at 50% of its capacity. If you want to understand that better, watch part 2. Demand will raise because of the UBI. Now we coordinated increase in the number of companies in a very controlled way, and supply will increase also. The greatest achievement of GISA was not the end of the work or increase the amount of value generated by companies, but rather unbind the demand of the supply. That is extremely important. The separate demand from supply is the greatest achievement of GISA. That makes the economy work in a far, far better way. And how the story ends? It ends like that. UBI paying $4,000 a month, and it can go much, much further, like $10,000 a month. You will see when you start talking about the niche market. And capitalism, as time passes, goes each time worse. Now 4,000 in. There is one more problem in capitalism. Since one company holds almost all the demand, it can also stock money. If the situation couldn't get any worse, we still have to deal with money stocked. And to deal with money stock, inside of the black economy we have created something I call the new coin theory. How we would use money in the future. The new coin theory, it talks about much thing. How the state put money in the economy, how the state deals with inflation, how people use money inside the black economy. But I will talk all that in detail. But based on the method used in tickets as meal vouchers, for example, I created a new method of using money that allows the expansion of value delivery through the better use of productive capacity of the sectors of the economy in an individualized way. In other words, ticket for everything. This is very, very basic. There's much more things to talk about the new coin theory, like money with expiration date, much more thing. You will see as I show you. So, as I've said, the money will have expiration date. But before you get scared and say that is impossible to be applied, that investors won't accept that, let me tell you, I already have a solution for that. Keep watching. By the end of the video, you will understand better. Plus the method of currency division that I will explain in a second. First, the money of the future inside the black economy. 100% digital, controllable and traceable, very safe against fraud, and compatible with the currency division system. What is the currency division system? The method of currency division is the way that we can explore the economy in its maximum capacity, because once we divide money by segments, we can give more money to people, to the segments that have more vacancy, and give less money to people in the segments that has less vacancy, and expand more that specific segments of the economy, and then give more money to people spend in that segment. So it's a way to divide the coin, divide money by segments. And we'll apply the same equation that I show you, but by each type of coin. So the same formula applied to each segment of the economy. Here I give to you 6 coins that I've created. One coin to expand in clothes store, so 100 coins to expand in clothes, 100 to expand in service providers. Here I give you how a person should receive its UBI inside the black economy. 100 to spend in healthcare, 400 to expand in restaurants, 200 to expand in cars, 800 to expand in supermarket, plus $1,000 to expand in any segment of the economy. Here are the coin divided by type, and here we have a universal currency that people can expand whatever they want. So how they would buy a product with receiving money like that? They could buy, for example, from a service provider with 30 coins of service provider or 30 universal currency. Or they can buy in a mixed way with the universal money with the specific coin. And they could buy anything they want in that method. And so far, all other segments the same way. How should the state insert money in the economy? Well, first we need to understand the concept of the maximum expansion of the economy. Less cost possible to create products and run business, maximum number of intermediaries that add value to products, maximum expansion of niche markets, UBI, and the franchise model that I've already have explained to you. So let's start by the UBI. Here I bring to you each segment of a fictional economy. We can see that some segments are below the ideal and some are above the ideal. If we did not have the currency division method, the moment that we raise demand, that we raise UBI, for some segments that would be great, for others it would be bad. It would cause inflation. So to fight inflation and to explore the economy in the best possible way, deliver the most that we can to people, the coin division method is really a great solution for this. Also, one of the advantages of paying an UBI to people is that we take more advantage of the money. The money is not, let's say, spent in a wrong way by the owners of the companies, by supply. It is spent in the correctly way. We give to people, people give to business owner. Number 2, priority. If there is no way to store money, how people would open business? Through a waiting list that the state will create and give people business to run, based on the previous business of the owner before the economy turned black. Where the business is not created, a monthly compensation must be paid. So here is like the way that the state put money in the economy right now. This is the way that the state would put money into the business creation. So it would give money to the franchise. The franchise would settle the business, choose the place, create the structure, and give it to a previous owner of a business in the capitalist economy. So it would only receive ownership without having to pay anything or assume any debt, but don't receive any money as credit. So the state gives the business, not the money to open a business. Number 3, commodities. If commodities are the main ingredient to basic everything inside a capitalist economy, wouldn't it be a great idea to raise the price of commodities to hold the economy and preserve its sustainability? Well, that is happening at the moment we speak. Inside the black economy, due to the expiration date of the digital money, there is no need to do so. This means that commodities like electric energy and oil could be much cheaper because besides the expiration date of the money, people would have more money to spend and more need to spend due to much greater size of the economy. Not only the commodities cost would naturally reduce due to the short duration of the money, but the state could also give more subsidies to lower commodities price, even more without having to worry about any negative impacts on the economy. Number 4, intermediators. Well, remember what I told you about the painter? So, as more intermediators the economy have, the better, as long as the intermediators add value and wealth distribution to the economy. So this is a graphic that shows the ideal intermediator. So it needs to add value and to increase wealth distribution. If the intermediator do so, the economy can be much greater and much better. So here is an example of how the state could help to improve the quantity of the intermediators in the economy. It could simply create a franchise that adds intermediator in a business model, for example. Of course, as long as the intermediator add value and wealth distribution to the economy. Number 5, feedstock. Well, remember what I told you about the consumer buying directly from supermarket? Well, if it's more expensive to the consumer to buy directly the ingredients to make a meal in a supermarket, the chance of the consumer buy from a restaurant would improve. And if the state makes less expensive to the restaurants buy from supermarket ingredients to make a hamburger, for example, the chance of the consumer to buy a hamburger from a franchise is from a restaurant is much bigger. The state can help with subsidies and price regulation. Number 6, niche markets. The state could put money in franchises of niche market. It also could create a niche market coin. Why invest on niche markets, you might ask? To vastly increase the economy size, niche markets are the main way to fight OSCs. I will explain what OSCs is very soon. To reduce addiction, will be explained forward, but addiction is a single company concentrating all demand in a city. To control people's lifestyle and make the most of it, the method of coin division will make it really easy for niche markets to expand. Niche markets have an immense potential to be explored in a black economy that is not explored in capitalism due to poverty and lack of time. Because people work 9 hours a day, for example. What is the OSC? OSC is the optimal selling capacity. Here I use water as an example, but in the case of water, is the amount of water sale ideal for market and to satisfy people's need to drink water. So is a middle term between what people need and what is best for the market in terms of how much the water market should expand. That is the OSC. The OSC we can consider it's like a limit of expansion of a market. So does this mean that if we do this for all segments of the economy, we will have expanded the economy to its greatest form? No. Due to the fact that most of the population lives only with what is necessary to survive, works all day so doesn't have time to spend with hobbies, for example, many markets that could be large are small inside the capitalist economy. To these markets inside the black economy, we give them the name of niche market. Like niche market is the same in capitalism and in black economy, but in black economy the difference is that they can be bigger, much bigger. So, companies operating below their maximum capacity, increase in average income, increase in the number of companies. Here is the what we call the black cycle, how a black economy will work. Why I'm showing you this now, you will understand. Until you hit OSC, let's analyze this. Here we have the food market cycle. Here we have the OSC of food market, or the biggest possible size of the food market. Here we have the decoration market with its OSC, and here the jewelry market with its OSC too. As time passes, the market keeps in this cycle until the point that it reaches its OSC. The decoration market, also the jewelry market too, until the main markets that we know start to get to its maximum possible size, its OSC, and they can no longer expand. But if they expand, there will be problems with the economy and its sustainability. So as traditional markets arrive at their respective OSCs, new markets will be created. So the markets, as we know, they are in its maximum size. We start to create niche markets, markets that usually are small in a capitalist economy, but in a black economy they have a very strong potential. When we do that, we allow the economy to be much bigger in its final size, its GDP. So we have here a standard market. When you reach the OSC, you will be at your limit. When you reach OSC, you start focusing on niches. And the controlled entrepreneurship and the currency division system will contribute too much to the creation of niches, making our economy achieve a size greater than our imagination. The niche market not only allows us to improve the overall size of the economy, but also guide the lifestyle of the population. So, when we have the currency division method that I show you, and you focus on niche markets, you can create, for example, a coin to sport, so people can only spend that coin with sports, for example, with art, with gym, cinema, reading, technology, travel, clubs, hobbies, and we can create a beautiful variety of life, very focused on niches. Number 7, rent. A suggestion. Well, the franchisee pays rent to the landlord, and that is one of the greatest costs to keep a business. Let's suppose the state pays 30 to 60% of the rent to the landlord to help the franchisee. In return, the franchisee will give a percentage of the profit that he has with his business to the employees in a similar value that he paid as a rent, in a similar value that the state paid the rent to him. So what will that happen? Well, since he pays more, his employees and also the other franchisee in the city and in the world also pay more to the employees. We have more people consuming, and the market will be better for the franchisee. Also, he will have less cost with rent and a stronger demand at the same time. This is only possible due to the expiration date on the money. If not, it would destroy the economy's sustainability. This would really fix the problem that we have with rent today and make the economy nearly perfection. The same method could be used with feedstock and commodities needed to companies and factories. Subsidies are created to fortify the strength of companies. Nothing better than fortify demand by reducing company costs. We have only one limitation with that practice, is that the operation capacity of companies. If it's too high, we can't do that. So let's keep that in mind. Let's see all that we talked about until now applied in a small city to see all that in practice. But before we do that, we must know when and how should companies start to exist. First factor that we should keep in mind is the economic data of each city. Having the economic data of each city in an individualized and accurate way, we'll be able to put together a plan for the next 5 years at least. In addition to the individualized data of each city, we must have the individualized economic data of each franchise to transform planning into something even more accurate. Planning must be done by an artificial intelligence. Taking into account all the economic data captured, the projections of increased demand informed by the state, and the planning made for the city in question, companies should begin to exist in an orderly manner. After companies open, all the economic data of this company and the economic impact it had on the city should be monitored to know if the decision was right and how the next company should be. Meet the city of Santo Amaro da Imperatriz. Here we have Santo Amaro's supply data. Let's analyze that in detail. So the first information we have here is the saturation or the average of operation. This is the average of operation of all companies summed in Santa Amaro. So here we have a notion of how is the median that the companies are operating. If it's too high, we know that we are close to inflation. If it is too low, we know that we need to increase demand. We have addition. Addition is how much demand is concentrated in a single company. The higher the addition, worse is the economy of the city and closer to stagnate it is. We fight a lot against that. The niche exploration is estimative of how the city of Santa Amaro is exploring the niche markets. The maximum estimated size is the same thing, but with the how much the Santa Amaro's economy is in relation with its maximum estimated size. So it is 28% of the greatest size it could achieve. The variability is a mix of the niche exploration with the amount of concurrents that business type have in the city. It's not that important, but usually bigger cities have a better variability. Well, necessity I'm going to explain a little bit later, but it means how much the city of Santa Amaro offer supply is being able to fulfill the necessities of its population. Let's say the population needs a gym, or the population needs a movie theater. Does the city have a gym or a movie theater, or has the enough quantity of gym to be able to attend the entire population? That's what necessity measures. Rent concentration is how high the rent prices are in the city of Santa Amaro. Usually in bigger cities is very high. The average ideal is how much this value here should be. Then we have Santa Amaro's demand data. Let's start with the OSC. Let's say we give 500 coins to the population of Santa Amaro spend in restaurants. How much of that is being spent and how much of that is stop existing due to the expiration date? Let's say 96% of all the coins that we give to be expended in restaurant are being spent by the population. This means that we can raise the quantity of coins we give. Now let's say if instead of 96% is 90% or 89%. This means that give more coins to the population spent in restaurants may not be a good idea because the coins are not being totally spent. Income distribution is very similar to addiction, but income distribution is more about the income. Addiction is the concentration of demand. As better the income distribution is, greater the economy can be. The average income percentage supply is how much the average income received by the population of Santa Amaro, if it was fully spent, how much it would put the average income operation of Santa Amaro's business. Here we can see the population of Santa Amaro and the support for small enterprises. The more important factors that we must keep in mind are those that I put the red square. On top of these factors, artificial intelligence will create a planning for the city of Santa Amaro. Let's exemplify the opening of a company. Now let's analyze specifically the economic data of the clothing segment of Santa Amaro. Here we have the demands data and the supplies data. We can see that the saturation is above the ideal and the OSC median is at 98%. This means that if we give more clothing coins to the population of Santa Amaro, they will spend it. So, a new clothes store should open based on this information that we have. But in the universe with so many franchises, which one should we choose? Here I bring only two alternatives, but it could have many more. So let's analyze in detail these two franchises. First, the business model. The creative business model is based on a shop and online sales. The Nice Ideas is based on shop, online sales, and also black box on the street. The size of one is medium and the other is small. The value delivered, creative is 2, Nice Ideas is 4. What this means? This means that Nice Ideas is cheaper than creative. Employees, creative has 3 employees, needs 3 employees to work, Nice Ideas only 1. The brand's demand, how much people desire that specific brand, both are the same, they are 3 stars. And the cost to operate, creative is high and Nice Ideas is average. Now to continue our analysis of the 2 franchises, we need to see this first. Here I show you all the factors that we analyzed in the previous slide and what information they give us. So, local consumption, value delivery, city neighborhood demand for the segment, estimated demand consumption, demand delivery, minimal demand consumption. Based on this information, we can have this. And with this information, these new factors that we can have, we can create a new graphic. And this graphic is the one we're going to show to compare these 2 franchises. So first we have the sustainability requirements. Each one has its own specific sustainability requirements. You see here, in the case, for example, of Nice Ideas, it needs 3,000 people from C3. C3 is that class that I explained to you when I was talking about the UBI. C3 DAO in an average saturation market, if high, 4 to 5,000 in a radius of 6 kilometers. The purpose of these 2. First, Nice Ideas. Serve the lower class with high value delivery and serve the system due to its lean structure. Creative. Serve the upper classes, withdrawing excess money through products with quality and high added value, in addition to distributing income due to its 3 employees. And here we can have the graph that I show you. And we can see these 2 franchises in a more clear way. We can see that Nice Ideas deliver much more value and has much more demand in the city of Santa Amaro. Why we need to bring this to a graphic? Because it will be the artificial intelligence that will say what is the best franchise, and the artificial intelligence understands numbers and graphics and this type of thing. So when we show it this way, for the artificial intelligence, it's much easier to choose the best franchise for Santa Amaro. And we can see that Nice Ideas has a best demand for the city, also delivers more value. Also, it needs less rent because it uses black boxes in its business model. Also is probably a smaller store. So based on this information, we can say Nice Ideas is best for the city of Santa Amaro. Here we have the score that the artificial intelligence give to the 2 franchises. And based on that score, Nice Ideas is the best for Santa Amaro. There is also a second score, the score of necessity. If you want to know that better, please watch part 3. I won't explain that in details here, but basically it is, let's say, Santa Amaro city is needing a specific type of segment that it doesn't have, like an ice cream shop or a gym or a movie theater, as I said previously. The score of necessity will help with that, to give what people need, not only what is best for the economy. So Nice Ideas is the chosen here. In Santa Amaro we'll get a franchisee of the nice ideas in its city. Now let's see what happens. The saturation and average of operation of the clothing segment Santa Amaro will be low. It goes to 48% because now there is a new clothes store operating in the city. Also, the average income supply will get low too, and the income distribution will be better too. And now it's time to increase the amount of clothing coins of Santa Amaro, because now there is more clothing stores. That is that cycle that I show you in other slides. Question: how did we define the place that nice ideas would be? Well, let's see. Here we have some requisites that nice ideas need to establish its place, its store. The value of rent, the need to capture demand, the size that the store must have, and the sustainability requirements. The artificial intelligence will analyze all the places that nice ideas could be, and will find the best one that will be better for nice ideas and the entire economy of Santa Amaro. One of the things that artificial intelligence will have in mind is the price of rent. And to lower the price of rent, one thing is needed, and is this. Imagine that each head dot that we have here is a store. We need to turn the city of Santa Amaro from this to this. We need to decentralize the store so we can lower the rent, and also distribute demand is much better when we decentralize the stores of Santa Amaro. Now let's see how business should be treated by the artificial intelligence. It's paper of the AI to distribute demand between the business in town. Favor new and local business. Also, the internet should help those local businesses to sell more. When we have an economy with high addiction, is the moment that we know that that particular economy is having problem to distribute demand between the business that it have, and is in danger of stagnating. How can we distribute demand? Well, the franchise model is already good at distributing demand, but the new monetary policy, advertising control, local support policy, and also the distribution of points of sales, the distribution of black boxes, for example, over the city. But sometimes that might not be enough. Here we have restaurants in the city of Santa Amaro, here we have demand. We see that 3% of the demand is buying from a single restaurant that's operating at 92% of its capacity. And 0.2% of the entire demand of Santa Amaro for restaurants is buying from another restaurant that's operating only at 23% of its maximum capacity. If we increase restaurant coins by 10%, what will happen in this scenario? One grew 8% and the other 11%, while the three restaurants that was already operating with little demand grew only 1%. This means that growing demand by 10% will not grow by 10% all companies or all restaurants equally. Restaurants that already have the most demand previously tend to grow more than 10%, while those that will newly open will benefit less from the increase. So let's analyze the data of 8 franchises to understand how this action will affect the economy of Santa Marta. Here I bring to you 7 restaurants and their operational rate and the ideal operational rate. And here the number of coins of restaurants that the population of Santa Marta is receiving. Here we can see that we have one restaurant with 78%, the other with 52%, other with 36%. How we fight that? How we make the restaurants operate in a more equal way? Here is one alternative. For example, understand the operation of the local currency. What is the local currency? It is a coin that can be spent by the owner of it only in a radius of 3 kilometers of the house of the owner. So if a person lives here exactly, it can only spend in business that stay in the 3 kilometers radius of its house. So we help decentralize the business of a city. We help distribute demand. That's very good for the economy, this specific coin. Now we can create another type of coin, call it the new coin. It can only be used in business that recently opened, in the last 6 months. So here we have 2 businesses that opened in the last 6 months in the city of Santa Marta. One's called Cozina, the other Gelato. So this new coin can be only spent in these 2 businesses. This helps people to know new business, and once they know that the new business, they start to consuming from it, and we start to distribute in demand. It's a very good alternative to help with demand distribution. We can see the impact of those coins in the economy. So the Gelato and the Cozina will now operate in a higher operational capacity. We can have other methods too. Forced profit margin increase. Increasing the profit margin decreases the amount of demand of a given company without necessarily decreasing its profitability. So we can increase the profit margin of, for example, Franquia D, and its operational rate will low, but not its profit. We can create something I call the balance coin. It help businesses that are operating below their ideal. Remember that money spent on something is money that's not spent on something else. So the balance coin, it could only be used in businesses that are operating in a low operational rate. So businesses that are going bad. So it's a coin to be used in business that are not good, that are close to bankruptcy. In this case, it would be franchise B, and it would raise the operational rate of franchise B. Third method, maximum sales limit. Limit the amount of sales made per day, or limit which far the company can sell its products through black boxes or online. So it can limit, for example, the online sales of franchise D. So presential sales wouldn't be affected, only online sales and black box sales. Well, but even if after all the franchise D remains far above ideal, this franchise here, we have 2 other methods. We can open a new franchise D branch with a new owner, or we can expand franchise D. So it all depends on the economy of Santa Marta. For example, income distribution and addiction. Whenever the franchisee will gain a new branch or expand will depend on the level of income distribution in the city of Santa Amaro and the addiction that the company and the demand of Santa Amaro possess. So as I told you, the addiction and the income distribution. If those two are high, then franchisee won't get a new branch. Let's understand the concept of demand bottlenecks within a black economy. Companies concentrate demand, what we call addiction. Coins not being spent and no longer existing when they reach the expiration date, reaching the OSC. Companies operating at low operating capacity. Money somehow being stocked, which is pretty hard in the black economy, to not say impossible. Products with value added by brand and rent costs. Companies that would have unique demand if they existed, but they do not exist. The niche markets. So the niche markets, they have another good thing is that when they are created, they not necessarily take demand from any other type of business. They create a new demand, a new type of demand, a unique demand that before the niche market exists, that type of demand doesn't exist either. Not expand the offer when the time is right. Do not distribute the supply more equally. And all this we do with this artificial intelligence and all this practice that I show you to make companies meet these requirements. Viability, not saturate the market, maximum value delivery, and distribute income. Question: what would be the difference of Santa Amaro to a bigger city? It's variability, necessity, and rent concentration also demand support for bigger companies. Now let's change a little bit the subject and how all that would impact the life of the elites, how the investors and people that have a lot of money stocked, how these people, let's say, what will change to them in a black economy. Income concentration is an infinitely smaller problem if you can't stock money. So income concentration is the big problem of a capitalist economy. In a black economy is not a problem at all, as long as money can't be stocked. That is the great point here. How does the elite impact a black economy? So demand buy from a business owner, which is a member of the elite, and instead of expand its business or invest the money, it will spend and fortify demand. But then we my question, but if you can't stock money, how will you concentrate income and become rich? Well, to explain that to you, we must analyze Jones' case. Jones have an estimated fortune of $850 million. Here we can see how his fortune is distributed. 45% in fixed income, treasury bonds, this kind of stuff. 30% in stocks and hedge funds. 10% in his properties. And 50% in company shares. Sorry, I mistake here. 50% in stock and hedge funds and 30% in company shares. His monthly income is around 1.5 million. Jones spends 1 million per month to survive. The rest of the money, $500,000 per month, goes back to investments or stocks or other type of things and not directly inside the economy. How much money was stopped from entering the economy and how many companies went bankrupt because of that money that didn't go in? How much money that failed to enter the economy was used to expand supply in the wrong way, generate monopolies, bankruptcies, and weaken demand? Keep in mind that John is just one person. How many Johns do we have in the world? And how much damage has already been done because of it? So, what is the idea to fix that problem? The idea is that all the fixed income becomes company share. So there's no more investment environment, let's say. Jones will only receive money from his company, but with a big difference from capitalism. He will be assured by the state. I'll explain that in a minute. The economy can easily pay 1.5 million per month for John without much prejudice at all, since the 1.5 million is spent in a single month, not be used to expand supply or to increase the already big 1.5 million per month in any way. The amount paid could even increase according to economic data on the whole of the economy, without major losses in all. John would have state guarantees that if his company did not perform as expected, as long as he has fulfilled what was requested by the state, he would be assisted by the state. Now let's see that in detail. Here we have John's income projection of inside a black economy. So the average income for John is 1.5 million per month. Then he will be assured by the state 1.3 million per month. And he will have an increase in that value by 1 or 2% per year. Here we can see John's income. So here is 1.2 million in the month of January and 1.5 million in the months of April to July. We can see that here John make less than what he was assured by the state. So the state will give John 100,000. So why 100,000? Because it was 100,000 less than what he was assured. Let's say that this was 900,000. Then John would receive 400,000 from the state. As long as John cooperates with the state, he will be assured by the state. So it's a much safer environment. We much look at this situation like, first, the black economy is a much safer place than capitalism. Your company won't bankrupt, won't have big problems with demand, is much, much safer. At the same time, the state will assure the companies that don't go well. When John doesn't get what he was supposed to get, the 1.3 million, he will receive from the state money. So that is the difference from capitalism. Question: if how many, what will be the percentage of that the state would own from John's company? The correct question would be, what would be the difference of my earnings in relation to the capitalist system? And here we can see that though capitalism may be better in the beginning, at the end is much worse. So in a black economy, the elites will get much, much more money as time passes by, if compared with capitalism. Remembering that the state does not need taxes to survive. It can simply print money. That would cause inflation, though. But one definite factor. The elite and the income concentration is an infinitely smaller problem if you can't stock money. So income concentration is the big problem of a capitalist economy. In a black economy is not a problem at all, as long as money can't be stocked. That is the great point here. How does the elite impact a black economy? So the man buy from a business owner, which is a member of the elite, and instead of expand its business or invest the money, it will spend and fortify the man. But then we my question, but if you can't stock money, how will you concentrate income and become rich? Well, to explain that to you, we must analyze John's case. Jones have an estimated fortune of $850 million. Here we can see how his fortune is distributed. 45% in fixed income, treasury bonds, this kind of stuff. 30% in stocks and hedge funds. 10% in his properties. And 50% in company shares. Sorry, I mistake here. 50% in stock and hedge funds and 30% in company shares. His monthly income is around 1.5 million. Jones spends 1 million per month to survive. The rest of the money, $500,000 per month, goes back to investments or stocks or other type of things and not directly inside the economy. How much money was stopped from entering the economy and how many companies went bankrupt because of that money that didn't go in? How much money that failed to enter the economy was used to expand supply in the wrong way, generate monopolies, bankruptcies, and weaken demand? Keep in mind that John is just one person. How many Johns do we have in the world? And how much damage has already been done because of it? So, what is the idea to fix that problem? The idea is that all the fixed income becomes company share. So there's no more investment environment, let's say. Jones will only receive money from his company, but with a big difference from capitalism. He will be assured by the state. I'll explain that in a minute. The economy can easily pay 1.5 million per month for John without much prejudice at all, since the 1.5 million is spent in a single month, not be used to expand supply or to increase the already big 1.5 million per month in any way. The amount paid could even increase according to economic data on the whole of the economy, without major losses in all. John would have state guarantees that if his company did not perform as expected, as long as he has fulfilled what was requested by the state, he would be assisted by the state. Now let's see that in detail. Here we have John's income projection of inside a black economy. So the average income for John is 1.5 million per month. Then he will be assured by the state 1.3 million per month. And he will have an increase in that value by 1 or 2% per year. Here we can see John's income. So here is 1.2 million in the month of January and 1.5 million in the months of April to July. We can see that here John make less than what he was assured by the state. So the state will give John 100,000. So why 100,000? Because it was 100,000 less than what he was assured. Let's say that this was 900,000. Then John would receive 400,000 from the state, as long as John cooperate with the state, he will be assured by the state. So it's a much safer environment. We much look at this situation like, first, the black economy is a much safer place than capitalism. Your company won't bankrupt, won't have big problems with demand, is much, much safer. At the same time, the state will assure the companies that don't go well. When John doesn't get what he was supposed to get, the 1.3 million, he will receive from the state money. So that is the difference from capitalism. Question: if how many, what will be the percentage of that the state would own from John's company? The correct question would be, what would be the difference of my earnings in relation to the capitalist system? And here we can see that though capitalism may be better in the beginning, at the end is much worse. So in a black economy, the elites will get much, much more money as time passes by, if compared with capitalism. One definitive factor: the elites and the population will have their interests aligned. Since the elites will want demand to raise in order to get profit, as demand raises, population gets richer. And that would allow to expand the economy much faster. As much the economy grows, more space it has to offer to its citizens. Now let's analyze Santa Amaro example again. Santa Amaro has between 20 restaurants to a population of 23,000. If every inhabitant of Santa Amaro eats 3 meals a day on a restaurant, to feed the entire population it would be needed at least 250 to 300 restaurants. What this means is that there is a gigantic space to be explored. Imagine how much space that a black economy could create and how much of that could be given to the elites in exchange for they save the money. Here you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about. Here is the economy, a very, very small economy, like the capitalism. And here they save money. Here we have the priority system that I already explained. And this saved money start to become companies. With time, we start to have more companies than saved money. So here is the comparison between a black economy and capitalism. Here is the economy and the property of the owners of the saved money, and here is capitalism with a very small economy and a lot of economy pyramids, let's say. So the difference is, let's say, the same economy here. 1.53 of GDP being 300 billion for elite companies in a sustainable economy. Capitalism is 500 billion GDP. This number probably would be much higher in the black economy. I'm just supposing here, but 300 B for the elite, being 50 B in companies being some unstable within the economy, and 250 billion in money invested outside the economy, like stock market, for example. So this is sustainable, and this is not sustainable. That is the big difference between black economy and capitalism. Black economy will take all the saved money, the stocked money, and by the littles put it in the economy as the economy grows. And it will grow really fast, and it will have a gigantic GDP compared to capitalism. Because the capitalism economy is always small, it can't grow, and the only way it grows is in an unsustainable way. So, let's talk about now the public debt crisis around the world, and also how it could be fixed by the black economy. Here we have an example of a state and how it's divided its expenditure. We can see here that 45% of the entire spend of this state in question is spent with its public debt, 27% with welfare and social assistance, 30% with states and cities, and 20% with public functionalism and other expenditures. So, what money with expiration date plus the priority system would change in this expenditure? So, because of the black economy, we would have a strong economic growth that will consequently increase tax revenue, management of elites from treasury bonds to companies, what would stop the raising of the public debt, inability to buy new securities or save money as in the old years, what would furthermore reduce the public debt, even more economic growth that will consequently further increase tax revenue. Public debt will get to a point that it will get so low where as it gets lower, the money given as UBI will raise because the lower public debt. And we have ever more economic growth, even more economic growth. So by the littles, the public debt will get little, as you can see here. It was much higher before. And all that because money with expiration date and the priority system. At a moment it will stop existing. All because money with expiration date and the priority system. Well, this is the end of this presentation. Thank you. I will keep with this YouTube channel. I will explain more with much more details everything that I talked to you here. This was just a resume, but I just want to make something really short, really quick that could be accessible to most of people, but I want to talk the subjects that I talk in this video in detail in other videos, so keep in this channel and you will see more. Thank you for your attention. If you see this video, you're seeking to make things better, and I think progress is the answer that we need to fix all the problems that we have today. Keep watching the channel. Thank you.